that, I'm fired up about freedom, ladies and gentlemen. I am fired up about not being a slave. I'm fired up about defeating tyrants. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very informative guest joining us coming up in the next segment, Larry Grathwohl. He infiltrated the murderous communist that trained Obama. They want to kill, back then in the 70s, they wanted to kill 25 million landowners, gun owners, conservatives, Christians. They want to just line us up and blow our heads off. And that's always been their plan. And guys, I forgot to do this because I pulled it again Sunday. Aaron's in there right now with McAdoo. Will you ask him, because he'll be the quickest, to print Army documents, cover re-education camps. Or you know what, that whole stack from Sunday, that police state stack that I used Friday night on Coast to Coast AM, you know, it's a big giant stack of Army documents, re-education camps, gun confiscation drills, how to process this by Social Security, how to, you know, find people that are you know, don't follow the politically incorrect stuff, you know, to pick up the politically incorrect. Just pull me those documents, because I want to read the Army code, read the manuals, because, you know, our friend Larry Grathwohl will be able to give us his take on all of that and what's currently happening and a lot more. Right now, let's go to some of your calls. Travis in Georgia, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hello, sir. Good day.
What's on your mind there, Travis? Do you need to go to a FEMA camp for a little while?
Yeah, with the state my mind is at now, that would probably be the best thing, you know. But what's on my mind? Other than the miracle fact of me waking up and how that came about, it's just the symbolism everywhere and everything I see. It's all around us. And
yeah, they're bombarding us with psychological warfare.
Yeah, and that's what I get when you say they call it psych warfare. You call it info war. But
well, I mean, they call it info war too, but we're using the truth and common sense. You know, evil stuff like the UN shouldn't be commanding our military and telling Congress they have no authority now. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, but what about Lil Wayne releasing a music video 3 days before Aurora, Colorado, and he had towards the
12 skeletons.
Yes.
You know, that could be a coincidence, though. But when you have other things where they have, you know, 20 TV shows and movies where gun owners blow up a federal building, and then the brother of the governor who's involved in all this PSYOP stuff writes a book where a Tom McVeigh bombs the federal building, and then that's used to take over and arrest the patriots, and then the exact same thing happens. That's different. That's different. You can see the... Listen, when I was growing up... all the soldiers, you know, on the TV shows fought for the UN. The toys are all UN Global Peacekeeper. In fact, one of those toys is sitting out there on the counter. It says Global Peacekeeper. Run that into me real quick. Just right there on the circular table, right behind that wall. Yeah, right over there. Or at least it was a few days ago. My kids had dug it out of storage here at the office. We're looking at it. There's all these toys about Global Peacekeeper. It's all conditioning. Recognize it. It's an assault to acclimate you. Thank you, Matt. I mean, look at this toy if you're watching on Prisonplanet.tv. World Peacekeepers. And you go to the store now, you can't find military toys that say USA on it like when I was a kid. Look at this. World Peacekeeper. Accessories, perfect for all. 12-inch action figures. And, you know, the new toys are police running checkpoints on the highway and putting people through body scanners. I mean, they're just getting everybody ready. This is all part of a unified program. Anything else, sir?
Other than the fact that I'm just about ready to give up this life in society to spread the word, I think that's all I have.
Well, I mean, that is all we have, is defeating this criminal takeover, which is a lot bigger than Obama. I mean, if Obama, you know, drifts off down the, you know, the way politically, they'll rehabilitate him and, you know, make him some type of humanitarian like Clinton and others and Bush. But our big issue is the ruling class, the mega rich, don't want a free market. They're the enemy. They want monopolies. And that's what we've got to explain to the disenfranchised poor people and welfare folks, is this is pressure from below and above. The ultra-rich, like Soros, Arm& Hammer before him, they are funding the communist takeover because they are exempt from it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Again, it is Thursday, the 30th day of August, 2012. I am your host, Alex Jones. And, of course, the news websites are Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.tv. And we are joined by Larry Grathwohl, who's been on with us before. You've also heard us many times play the clip where he breaks down being in the top of the Weatherman organization as an infiltrator. And they're talking about when they take over through the big federal government. This is Obama's mentors, the Weathermen that literally raised him and took care of him, said they're going to put 50 million of us in a re-education camp and kill 25 million of us. Now, new Army documents that the Army responded to and said, yes, that PDF is real. It's restricted. And then later they put it out on a National Guard site after we got it. Kind of like, okay, we'll just hide it in plain view. It is FM 3-39.40. It's how to put Americans in re-education camps who are, quote, political agitators, and how to re-educate us in the camps, and how to process their Social Security numbers. It's FM 3-39.40. And I thought we'd get Mr. Grathwohl on because we've got all these Obama advisors, and we played clips yesterday of them saying a new Oklahoma City or 9/11 will help get him elected. And, hey, there'll be a big events, and we'll blame it on our enemies. I mean, they don't say they're going to do it, but they come very close to saying they're going to stage something. So my question to him is, does he expect, knowing the type of people that are in and around Obama, to try to stage something before the election? Because we've got a lot of Homeland Security sources, and I've got police sources that are being told something big's happening around the election. Get ready for all Hades to break loose. Now, maybe that's not going to happen, but they are telling police, military that I've talked to on air, but also people I know and contacts that give us good information. I've never heard this much chatter. And then you've got, again, Robert Shapiro in the Financial Times of London saying, barring a new Oklahoma City, Obama will not get reelected. And the president needs that to reconnect with the people. And I can pull the quote up if you want us to show it again. The point is, all of this is going on, so I want to get his take on it. He's a decorated member of the Army in the Airborne in Vietnam, and then he came back and was going to college, and they were openly, calling for communist takeovers. He got invited to the meetings. They were openly calling for violence and bombings, so he went to the FBI. They said, well, infiltrate it. And he helped put some of these people behind bars and stop others from carrying out other events, and he's trying to, right now, for police officers they killed and others, they're still trying to get prosecution against some of the people that the evidence shows were involved. So we're dealing with very radical, dangerous people, is my point, who are, well, they did the Fast and Furious. I mean, they could do anything. They staged a false flag. Larry Grathwohl, good to have you on with us. I've thrown out a lot here in the last few minutes while you're sitting there on hold. What is front and center on your radar screen right now?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your program again. I really enjoy this, and I can't hardly add anything to what you've said in the introduction. I look at Barack Obama and remember the speech that he gave not too long ago, comparing himself to Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt, and I believe it was Wilson that he compared himself to. Presidents that he considers to be the greatest presidents we've ever had. It's interesting to note that he didn't mention George Washington, who, in my opinion, is the greatest president we ever had, because that man was in a position to be king if he wanted to be, and he is certainly responsible for the fact that we're still a democracy today, not only in that he led us to victory over the British, but that he turned down being a king, which at that time it would have been very easy for him to do.
Well, no one had ever done that. In fact, King George III, when he got the letter back a month after with the crossing of the Atlantic, that George Washington turned down the kingship that was being offered to him by basically everybody, and Hamilton wanted that he refused it. The quote by King George III was that George Washington was the greatest man alive in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And ironically, our president doesn't even bother to include him. Now, I don't know if that's because he doesn't think he's as great as him, or if he doesn't think George Washington is as great as the three he mentioned. But regardless, we're talking about a president whose ego is gigantic. He believes that he's the equal to Abraham Lincoln, and I mean, you know, has there been a greater president since George Washington than Abraham Lincoln? I don't think so. Given that, when you put all of that together, you realize that this is an individual who is not going to take defeat easily. And my belief is, remembering what his advisors have said before, Axelrod and the other guy that's mayor now of Chicago, that you never let a catastrophe go to waste. So you're exactly right. If you know, another Twin Towers was to happen, if another bomb in Oklahoma City was to happen, it would be a reason for the administration to declare martial law, possibly suspend elections until they decided that it was safe to have them again, and start rounding up dissenters like ourselves. And we know that at least somebody is thinking about it because of the documents you mentioned earlier, and also the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. That's what gives the president the power to use these regulations that you were talking about.
That's right. We're not speculating in a vacuum. This is now reality. Secret arrest, re-education camps, 1.4 billion rounds. It's not just 750, 450, 250. It's now 1.4 billion total in the last 12 months. Armored vehicles being delivered everywhere. What's going on from your highly informed view?
It's, I mean, if it walks like a duck and it's got webbed feet and it quacks, it's a duck. I, like you, hope that I'm wrong and that my suspicions are totally incorrect, and that this election will come and go peacefully, and that we'll have have good reason to look back on this in a few months and laugh. But my experience tells me to expect the worst. I mean, I heard the weathermen in meetings describe how they were going to round up, it was 100 million people, and put them in re-education centers. And now we find out that the government is creating re-education centers. Some of Obama's closest advisors are ex-members of the Weather Underground. And that's not just Bernardine Dohrn and Bill Ayers. Jeff Jones is one of the founders of the Apollo Group. The Apollo Group was involved in the stimulus package, the first stimulus package, and also in helping the Obama administration put together Obamacare. So Jeff Jones is one of the founders of the Weather Underground, along with Bernardine and Bill and Mark Rudd and several others. And he's probably closer to the administration than Bill and Bernardine right now.
Well, we have Homeland Security sources across the board who are apologizing and saying, I thought you were, too extreme. This is being discussed. And they're reportedly running around the highest levels of Homeland Security, giggling and laughing, not worried about the lesbian sex scandals, none of it, because they're saying, oh, you wait, something big's coming. We're not going anywhere. And we have fundraising letters, we know from 2 years ago that even Glenn Beck got and covered, where they send them out to Democratic donors and say, don't worry if he gets down in the polls. There's going to be a crisis, and we're going to blame it on people. I mean, they're so arrogant.
Yes, absolute arrogance. And if you think about it from one perspective, why shouldn't they be arrogant? Everything that they have touched in recent years has turned to gold. Who would have ever suspected that known terrorist bombers that had murdered policemen in a